Hi everybody. So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make a nicely labeled, organized data table using Google Docs. I'm going to base it on the graph you see in front of you, which should match what you're doing for your bouncy ball lab. You don't have to do it exactly like this, but what I want you to understand is when you make your own data table, there are certain things you should have in there besides labels and organizations. You should have the specific measurement with a variable, units, and uncertainties. And if you need to break it up into trials, you do so, but it's not difficult to do. So I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to start new and show you some of the little tricks that might be helpful in making this a quality table. Okay, so I'm going to go to File. I'm going to make a new one. I'll do a new document. Okay, so the first place to start is simply insert a table. Okay, and you can choose how many rows or columns you need, and you might have something in front of you from what you're going to base, which is fine, but let's say you're not even sure exactly what you need. You have a rough idea, so I'm just going to choose a 4x4 table, and I can adjust things from here. That's the important thing. I might not like the size of the cell, so let's say I want to make this table bigger without adding more tables. I highlight everything, and I can just go down to the bottom line, click and drag. So I'm just holding and dragging. I can make the rows wider, and if I click and drag on the right side, I can make them narrower, and I can always adjust after that. So I'm going to start with our independent variable, and it's not hard to figure out what to do from here. So I'm going to put bounce height. You can choose whatever font size, font you want. That's entirely up to you. I'm going to put the variable that we designated, so I'm just going to choose capital B because that's what I prefer. I know we might have chosen something different in class. Use that, but that's not the point. And press enter. I'm going to put the units. Very important to put the units here so you don't put them in each cell with the data. And then the one part that students often forget, I want to put the instrument uncertainty. Okay, so it might not be obvious how to get the delta sign. There's two ways you can do it. I'm going to show one way that I prefer. So I'm going to go back to insert. I can either do special characters and look for Greek letters and find delta. And that can be a bit of a pain, but you can do it. Or I'm going to go just down to the equation editor because I know there's a delta sign there. So I'm going to go to equation, and over here I get a bunch of choices. And right here are where the Greek letters are. So I go here, click, and there is a delta. Now, right now, if you notice, there's a little box runner. That means I'm in equation editor mode. If I want to get out of that because I just want regular text, I'm just going to use the right arrow. All right, so I'm going to say delta B, our uncertainty in the bounce height, equals, and then I'm just going to make up a number. You decide for your lab. I'm going to say I know it within 1 centimeter. Okay, the centimeters is implied, so I don't have to write it again. Now, this looks kind of crowded, and maybe I want a center thing. Let's see, I can highlight it. I can go up here, center. All right, that looks nicer. Maybe I can put a space here. Okay, and notice that the rows automatically get bigger when you use the space bar. Okay, so I'm good there. Now I want to do drop height, but I want to also consider how many trials I have. So let's say I decided I'm going to do 6 trials. So this column right here is going to be my drop height one. Since I have 6 trials, I'm going to probably want to make it bigger. So I highlighted it, I move, I click and drag. Okay, and we can adjust these later. So what I want to do here now is I could add a bunch of rows in here. I don't think I can do that, but the easier way is I'm just going to right click. So I highlighted it all, I right clicked, and no, I'm looking for split cells. There's merge cells there. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to right click, I'm going to do merge cells. I don't want that, but now I'm going to click that again, right click, and split cells. For whatever reason, it came up now. So what do I want? I said 6 trials, so I'm going to do 6 columns. And I want, right now I have, if you see my cursor, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. So I want 4 rows, and I can always adjust this. So let's see how that looks. Okay. So here are my columns, and I'm going to put my trials. I don't want the columns up here in my heading, so you might imagine, how do I get rid of them? I'm going to highlight, right-click, and merge cells. All right, so now I'm back to really what I want. If I don't like the width of these cells, I'm going to highlight them, go over here to the right, click and drag, and I can make them bigger. And if I just click and drag any side, I can adjust things. Okay, so let's say I'm satisfied with this. Now I'm going to go back in the heading here. I can put bounce height, or excuse me, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Let me go back to this. Our independent variable is drop height. And that's a D. And I make that a D. All right, not a biggie. So I can put the bounce height and all that in this cell, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something a little bit more fancy just to show you more versatility. I'm assuming I can do this. So I'm going to right click in this cell, and I want to split it again. So I'm going to split cell, and I'm going to split it into 2 rows. Okay, so if I go back to my previous document, maybe I need to refer to that. Notice in the title here, I've got the headings, but then I've got this little subheadings for the different trials, and that's what I'm showing you how to do. So let me go back to this. So I've split it into 2 rows. Now I want to take this row and split it into columns. So I go to split, and I had, I think, 6 columns. All right, now I can go. So I'm going to put bounce height /B centimeters. I'm going to center this later. And to do the uncertainty, I'm just going to copy and paste this and just change the variable, just to me a little bit easier. Okay, and I'm just going to change that to B. And maybe in this case, I might say this is 0.05. Again, I'm just making up a number. I'm not sure why this was centered. All right, and then now I want to center the whole thing. Whoops, don't want to do that. You can always use Control-Z if you want to reverse something you do or undo. And I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to center. Okay, maybe add a space. Again, I can be very particular about my formatting. All right, and I'm naming, this will be trial 1. I'm just going to put T1, T2 for trials, etc. Okay, so now what does that leave? Well, we want to do an average, so we're going to do an average height or bounce height. Be more specific. Always be as specific as you can. I don't need to give this a variable name here. I should put units. And there's going to be uncertainty in that bounce height. That's random error, but I'm going to create a different column for that because I got to do random error for each of the trials. And again, that random error should be in centimeters. And I can widen this once again. Widen this at the expense of that. You can play around to get a good balance there. Okay, so there is my fairly simple data table. It's again important that you have these features in terms of the variables, the names, the actual names of the measurements, units, and uncertainties at the very least. Okay, if you have any questions, make sure to ask, but this is the expectation throughout the year. You should have or if I haven't given it to you already, I will give you a guide sheet in the future, say what is the basics of a data table.